Welcome to Straight Talk with Alyssa Thorne, and I have with me today Dr. Joanne White, and I love her because she's very passionate and she believes and has a great heart for many wonderful causes, and we're going to be talking about a lot of wonderful things, and one of them is going to be Power Your Life, which is one of her networks that she has, and she's an amazing writer, and we just have lots to talk about. So welcome, Dr. Joanne.
Thank you so much, Carly. It's a pleasure to be with you.
I'm very excited to talk to you because I love talking to people that have lots of energy and have a little spunk and fire, and I think we can relate in that aspect.
Yes, you and I have had those conversations together, so it's really good. And I think talking to people with that energy really helps them raise their energy too.
It
When you were
does.
when you were on my show, we were talking about energy and vibration, and I think that it's contagious. So if we're talking and if I'm like, oh, you're going to pick that up in some way. But if I'm vivacious and alive and happy, that energy that's exuding is also going to you. And you exude that as well. So it's
Well,
good.
thank you. So one of the questions I'd love to ask, because I always get some juicy stories out of this, is, where did it all begin for you? What was your inspiration behind creating your brand, if you will, Power Your Life?
Power your life. I think that came to me in a dream because I actually think about empowerment, and years ago when I worked with some marketing people, they said, you can't use the word empowerment. You can't use the words transformation. People aren't going to understand it. And I thought, what? That's ridiculous. And now it's being used on TV. So the idea for Power Your Life is I believe that we all have that potentiality just like you do. And I believe that we have immense power, and we can connect to source, and we can connect to our infinite possibilities. And part of the reason for the Power Your Life TV show, radio show, and network is to enliven that in people, help people awaken to their own magnificence. I think that many people are aware of that, Carly, but not enough people. And I think that when we all do that, there's a real strong transformational shift that takes place on our planet, and we need that.
Absolutely. And one of the things I love about your brand is, for me, I always look at content that educates, motivates, inspires, and empowers. And for me, the word power is also something that I think encapsulates those words, and encapsulates, empowering and motivation and inspiring people. The other thing I love about you is that you and I have very similar values and language, so to speak. And one of the things I know that you use a lot, like I do, is the word collaboration. And for me, it's always conscious business collaborations, and I know you use the word conscious and collaboration a lot. So the first thing I'd love to ask you is, what does just the word collaboration mean for you?
Well, I wanted to get back to power for a minute, and then we'll do that, because oftentimes people are put off by the word power. They think it's about overpowering somebody else, and especially women feel that way. But we're in a new time where it's really about just accessing our own individual strength, our own individual capacity. So I don't think power has that same whatever it is attached to it, that we're going to hurt somebody or be over somebody or manipulate somebody. Collaboration. Oh, I used to be, when I was growing up, I was told, and my mother was told, that I was a late bloomer because I was really quiet, and I used to be a loner. I used to kind of do these walks, and they were like meditations. I didn't know what that was called at the time, meditation, but I would walk, and I remember when we moved to Queens, I would sit on a rock and just be able to kind of go inside and get all sorts of messages. And I wasn't sure what that was about until much later on. So starting out kind of alone and learning that there's so much beauty in working with other people, in helping other people grow, and in building things together. I just think that that's so wonderful. The Power Your Life Network, which is a network of incredible people, and you're going to be on it too, and I can't wait till we get you up. It's it's really about bringing incredible people who have gifts, who have energy, who have so much resources to offer people, but it's a way of creating a community so that we're helping one another do so. I think that as we build something, you can do it by yourself, but take a look at some of the finest, whatever it is, whether it's a brand, whether it's a building, whether it's a house, whatever, the people that go into it, even a restaurant, it's not just one person. It's a collaboration of so many people that makes up something so beautiful. So I think it's about sharing and about utilizing people's resources and talents. I have something that someone else has. Someone else has a gift that I don't have. And when you pull that together, you get so much more intensity. And we were talking about vibration and vibrational energy that it can really catapult forward and help people in a much grander scale, much grander way.
Well, I don't think a lot of people realize. I think we're so conditioned in people's minds to, because of the word energy, that we gravitate to the same vibrational energy. However, when you're doing a collaboration, yes, you're drawn to people of similar mindset. However, it's also important to remember that when we're building teams, when we're collaborating, that we, like you said, we find people that do something better at certain areas than we do. So, example, one of my 3 words that I love is I'm either going to do something, I'm either going to delegate it to a team member, or I'm going to literally check it off or delete it from my list if it is no longer serving me or my business. We have to be willing to be integrous and honest enough with ourselves to say, hey, you know what? I'm not really good at this. And not only that, I don't like doing this piece. So instead, I'm going to hand it over to Dr. Joanne because she's spectacular at this, right? And so
I think right. I think that's so important, Carly, because I think that it's about removing that egotistical piece, and it's about recognizing that, like you said, you have some tremendous strengths. You help me wonderfully with social media, and that's not an area that necessarily is comfortable for me, or mathematics. I said to somebody the other day, they were doing something with math, and I said, you're giving me a headache because my brain just functions differently. And if I was thinking, oh, what's wrong with me because I can't do that, and kind of suffering that, oh, there's something wrong with me, or I'm not good enough, or whatever, all that stuff that gets in the way, then I wouldn't be able to move forward. But I think what you're saying is so important too. It's when you're working with teams, recognizing someone else's strength, recognizing that they may be able to do it better, and when you're joining with forces with them, you're building a much better team because they have a strength that brings more to the situation, to the challenge, or whatever it is, and together it makes for just a wonderful resource, a wonderful platform.
And the only reason why I brought that up is because so many people are afraid to have people different than them on their team, feeling that maybe they might be outshined, or that they may feel diminished, or looked, I might be deemed stupid, or I don't know what I'm doing, or whatever. I encourage people to really think of that collaborational piece as a teamwork effort in finding people that are in alignment with your vision and your truth, your inner integrity and truth, and whatever your faith or spirituality, whatever those little pieces are for you. However, that you also look for diversity on your teams. Because when you build that type of collaborative team, you have a formula for success. And I know we're going to talk about that a little bit. I'm going to ask you for some necessary ingredients, some nuggets to have success. So for you, what are some of those important ingredients?
Well, firstly, I think that success is measured very differently by people, and I have a chapter in a book, Mastering the Art of Success, and I'm talking about the heart and soul of leadership too, because I think that what happens with success is that if we have an outside standard, well, is it about how much money you have in the bank? Is it about how many people are calling you, how many friends you think you have, that whatever it is. To me, success is really about having a sense of satisfaction, and also at the end of the day, kind of having a realization that, was I in keeping, well, you mentioned values, and I think that's so important to be really within integrity and to really be true to your values. So at the end of the day, have I lived my life, made contacts, associations, communications, whatever it was, that was in keeping with who I really am, with what I truly believe? And also, at the end of the day, did I do something to help someone else? It gets back to that collaborative piece. And also, it gets back to what I think it is what we need to do, not only individually, but in business, which is kind of the three P's: people, planet, and prosperity. So I think that goes together. That to me is a really new paradigm. I didn't make it up, but I love it, and I just think it works. And I think we have to be, when we're talking about conscious and being conscious, it's about awakening to the fact that when I help you, when you help me, there's also some energy that gets created, and we're creating something even more grand than when we can do it solo.
So you brought up some really valuable, actually some of my favorite nuggets there. And one of them is you brought up, it's kind of, in my terminology for it, is the ripple effect. I don't think we realize that when we help one person in whichever way, in shape, or form it is. It may be that you may have a lot of money, so you donate in that particular way. Maybe you have a ton of wealth of knowledge and you donate in that kind of way. It could be mean you're taking someone who had an accident or needs a ride to whatever, to the hospital, to the grocery store, for cleaners, whatever it is. I don't care. I have so many people tell me, well, I don't have enough money. I don't have enough time. I don't have the resources to help. And I'm this kind of small, and there's no way I have the imagination or the mindset, whatever. That's baloney, right?
Right.
Anyone
Well,
can do
right.
anything. It's
Well, I
this.
think it's about recognizing that you don't. It's not about money. It's not about. It's about, okay, what can I give? And it doesn't have to be something enormous, Carly. It's just, what do I have to offer? Is it a kind word? I like to make people smile, so that when I go into public places or whatever, I like. I can be funny. I can be very serious. You see my serious side, but I can be funny, and I like to make people smile. So to me, being able to go out in the world and help people smile and sort of brighten up their day, is, what does that cost to do that, to be nice to somebody, something was happening the other day. There was a woman who was in a parking lot, and she looked like she was upset and fumbling, and I went over to her and I said, are you okay? And she asked, she said, can you just help me find something? I can't, I lost, I just, I can't find my keys, and I can't. And she was so upset that she really wasn't looking in the right place. You know how that is when it's, oh my, where is it? Where is it? And it's right before your eyes. It was something so little. It took, what, 5 minutes or less out of my crazy busy schedule, but it made a difference in her life. And it also created a wonderful interchange or exchange that we had that was made my day too.
Exactly. I was going to say that. I guarantee you that exchange also broke up your crazy day. So,
Right,
there was
right.
something that came out of it for you as well. The other things I love you touched upon, you said three P's. And one of the things that I love, and we were talking about vibration the other day, was, well, I don't think people even realize this. It's people, places, things, environment, right? It's all these things that make up our life, our connections, and the energetic interplay. And one simple little thing I love to share with people is, I'll have clients and they'll tell me, I go, well, I had this little kind of trick I do. I told you about the multisensory survey. However, a
Right.
lot of times I'll meet people outside of their house purposely. I want to meet them someplace else, and I'll walk them to their car after we're done. And they're like, okay. And then after we had the conversation, I tell them why I walked into the car. One, I want to know, what does that car look like? What is the outside filthy, clean? When they open the door and they're saying goodbye, is there like wrappers all over the floor, or is the house, or is it really pristine? Because I know when I do that, I know what I'm walking into in terms of a consulting job or working with that client. Because I know if their car looks like that, their relationship in some way does, their work in some way does, their housemate, whatever. And people don't realize these things are literally the people, the places, the things, our environment makes us who we are. And as we were talking about vibration, people can feel that. I can tell from your personality, as much as we've talked on the phone and Google Hangouts and emails and all this other stuff, that you're someone that's more on the orderly side and likes to, and even if you may not be meticulously organized, you do thrive better when things are organized, right? That you prefer that, even if you're not good at it.
Right, but I do have my moments, and I also have one place that kind of you don't want to see that.
It's your catch-all room,
or
right?
one drawer that please don't open that drawer. However, I'll tell you something funny. I have a friend that, and I think he'll be okay with me saying this. One day I was visiting him, and I opened his drawers, and he asked me to get something, and the socks are lined up just so, and I thought, oh, do people really live like that? You do? Oh my God. I was like, I mean, I have an underwear drawer and a sock drawer and a sweater, and things are organized that way, but everything was wrapped and lined up, and I thought, wow. So to each his own. I mean, I have a little bit of order within disorder. Okay, there are things that need to be very organized, and one thing is I don't like being late. So, and I don't like people to be late for me either. I just think that if you make a commitment, whatever it is, you really have to honor that commitment. That's part of what we've been talking about, Carly, in terms of integrity. So make a commitment and make sure that you do whatever you can. Now, obviously, sometimes life happens, but for the most part, really keep to your commitments. It says a lot about who you are. And not only that, it's also saying a lot that you respect whomever you're meeting or whatever that particular situation is. And I think that that's so vital to relationships and to exchange and collaboration and communication.
You and I need to do an actual show. No, I'm serious. I am flying to New Jersey. We're going to do an in-studio show because what you touch, I have to tell you, there's so much, there's like a Pandora's box you've opened. So one, you and I had a show the other day about multisensory. And now you just touched upon another piece that most people don't understand. Like you said, I like people who are in time. We have to do a show about archetypes because here's the thing most people don't understand. So someone that is always on time is someone that we call in time, meaning they are actually also somebody that's very present in the now. People that are consistently late are what we call through time, meaning they are literally either thinking forward, they're in the future, or they're in the past.
Right,
they're
or
not
back.
in the present. And it's not necessarily their fault. That's just part of their archetype. And then again, what we said yesterday was the only difference between you and I and other people is that we have looked at studying, training, and catching ourselves in our behaviors. So the interesting thing that people also need to understand about what she said about being on time, I want you to think about this, audience. When you are not on time for things, you are actually missing out possibly on opportunities because you have not arrived there on time universally, whatever that is for you, okay? And so by being there late, you have the possibility, and I'm saying possibility for a reason, on missing opportunities because obviously there's another I guess as we call people will say myth or whatever, that possibly I'm late because I'm God or faith or spirit has purposely made me late so I miss a car accident. So I'm not saying
that's different.
Right. So I'm not saying that these things don't happen. What I'm saying is that being on time is so important for you and the other person for the proper alignments to happen. So I want you to think about that next time you get lazy about your time, what you might possibly be missing. And I think sometimes people forget about that. There's a reason why there's time, at least where we are now. So yeah, you and I need to do a show about this whole multi-century archetypes.
Well, we can do that too.
Oh my God!
Talking about how sometimes there's something else coming about that was really in a very positive way preventing you years and years ago. And I've taught classes on getting in touch with your intuition, getting in touch with your psychic abilities. I've taught it at some local colleges here. And one of the stories that I've told, and it's a true story, there was one day I was getting ready to take a walk, Carly, and there was something that just kept keeping me in the house. and I was getting ready to take a walk, and the phone rang, and I couldn't find my keys, on and on and on and on. And finally, it was too late because I had an appointment, and I have to be on time for my appointments. Later on, I found out that the place where I was going to walk, there was a shootout. And so, spirit, God, my own intuitive sense was really keeping me safe, for one, and also keeping me so I wouldn't have been delayed because the people, anybody that was in the park at the time, really was not allowed to go anywhere. They were sort of like imprisoned, even though they weren't, because there was, there was something else going on and they had to be safe. So I thought, that spirit helping out, and it's very different from being on time, because that was the message. You need to be safe, so we're going to do whatever it is we need to deter you from being in a place where your safety is actually in jeopardy.
So my totem animal just popped up behind you on your desk. I absolutely love cats. So what is the name of that beauty?
Oh, that's my girl.
And her name?
She's a Selena.
Ooh.
You want to hear a story? What's that?
I said, ooh, pretty.
Yes, you want to hear a story about her that I just told a friend of mine? I went actually on a little pilgrimage several years ago, and I don't even remember what I was thinking about, but there is a place in Pennsylvania where Padre Pio, who had all the Padre Pio. Okay, so I went to visit his shrine, and they have a beautiful building, and inside are all the story of who he is and whatever, and outside they have these beautiful statues, and one was Mother Mary. So I did a little prayer or whatever, and left something there, and I get home. And the next day I look at her forehead, and she has this M that she still has, and she had this when many years ago, but she still has this M that I don't remember being there before this little pilgrimage that I took. And I said, "Oh my God, this is amazing." And so she's very special.
Aww. Yes, I go to friends' house and they know I love cats. And I'm like, "No, don't worry, Carly. Don't feel offended. They're very shy, and when people come over, they run and hide." And like one of my friends, it was 5 cats, and
Right.
Sure enough, we're talking and just hanging out, and slowly one comes out and rubs up on my leg, and they're like, and then another one comes out and comes on my lap, and then another, and they're just
they know, right?
It was just so cute.
Well, she wanted to be part of the
Absolutely
party today.
And I have to tell you, this video frame is beautiful. We got flowers, and we got the kitty cat. Oh, and it's right over your shoulder. Absolutely beautiful.
She planned it.
Yes, she did. So I would love to talk about, I know you're like an amazing writer, and you've done a lot, you're like me, you've done a lot of co-authoring, and I know you've also obviously written several books of your own. I know that you also have a new book coming out, an upcoming book release called More Heaven. So first, before we go there, I'd love for you to share a little bit about your writing style, or what are the things, like I have 3 passions of what I like to write about: marketing and social media, metaphysics, obviously, anything that's deeply metaphysically oriented, and I love doing quote books. Just that really, I call them ahas, like really deep ahas. So what is your passions on what you write? I know you've done things on various things, so I'd love to know, what are your passions when it comes to writing?
Spirituality, metaphysics, helping, empowering people, women, and I have actually 2 books. The other one, I'm not sure when that's coming out, and that's actually a coming of age story for young girls. So to me, it's about helping people. But I've been writing since I was really young. I mean, truly, truly young, because the first time I was able to pick up a pen, I started writing. And I remember was Heinz Ketchup had an ad, like they said, give us an ad, write, and I entered this contest about how I love Heinz Ketchup or whatever, because I did. I liked Heinz Ketchup as a kid. And so I would enter these kinds of things. My sister, who's older than me, used to kind of make fun of me. I love her, but so she'd say, "Oh my God, you're writing this thing, Heinz ketchup. Why I love, I'd really get into whatever the situation was because, yeah, I liked it. And how do you say the so? And I also love humor. Lately, I haven't been writing humorous stuff, but when I was younger, I used to write really kind of funny things, and I'll probably get back to that because again, I love to make people laugh. I like to be able to write things that can help people transform, grow, think, and we've been talking about conscious and kind of be present. And a lot of my writing, and I'm sure yours is too, is very guided because something happens. It's like the story More Heaven. It actually is based on a situation. It's based on a true, it's somewhat autobiographical. It's based on a true story that took place many years ago. And what happened was, I was teaching children with special needs in a situation whereby kids that were not allowed in public education because of the so-called severity of their emotional handicap or challenge or disability, and those were the words that were used then, or retarded, whatever. Um, there was no legislation, civil rights legislation, really, that said, okay, states, schools, you can't say, oh, this kid is just too much. We can't. So I actually was a teacher that was chosen. I've had many lives. A teacher that was chosen to pilot a program, and and many people in the school and even the principal at the time was that they didn't want it. It was too much. It was like, okay, people were actually afraid of what was going to happen. I wasn't, but they were. And what happened is, as I was working with these kids, I'd get up every morning, Carly, and there would be a sentence in my head. I don't even remember the sentence at the time. I mean now, but so it was like there was something going on. And so finally one day I said, "Okay." And I started writing, and it just started to flow. And it's taken many, many years and many incarnations, and I'm not going to go into it now because it's really in the book too, in the epilogue, for this to find, for kind of the I think it was ahead of its time, okay, because the acceptance of people and kids with special needs, with autism, with disabilities just wasn't in place the same way that it is today. That's awareness, that whatever. So there were many times that I just put it away. And then a few years ago, one of the professors that I had shown the manuscript to, I passed him because I was an adjunct at Temple University. I passed him in the halls when I was teaching, and he said, "Joanne, whatever happened to that story?" Because I had put it away, and it was like, okay, next, whatever, right? Onward, without getting upset. And, it was something I had to write. I was compelled to do it, and I followed spirit, and I did it. And when he said that, it was like, again, the universe going, pay attention, this is something you need to do. So fast forward, here we are. I'm actually been working with a screenwriter so that we've just finalized the screenplay for this, and the book's coming out first, and hopefully there'll be an incredible movie because it's about these kids. It's about how special they are and how important it is, but it takes place at a time when society just didn't get it, and so these kids and their parents were fighting incredible battles when many kids were institutionalized, or they said we can't, they're unteachable. So I'm very passionate about it. I really am, and I think that finally, the time has come.
As a matter of fact, I used to work in New York State. I used to work for New York State in Westchester County, and it's very interesting. California is very different than there. And they would actually take like blocks or like parts of the cities, and they'd create, circles of homes. And so I actually I was certified from the state and worked in lots of different group homes with autistic kids, Down syndrome, blind, deaf, whatever. And so actually, this is when I was in high school. and eventually became a manager for a group home, et cetera. And I also worked before that in day treatment programs where they would send the kids from the group homes to learn. So
Right.
yeah, it was very interesting. I learned a lot about kids that were just dumped there and nobody wanted anything with, families
Right.
just, and then the
Right.
parents that were actively involved. It was very educational. I learned a lot about myself, and then I also worked for hospice. For me, because of, as you know, a little bit of my background, I was such the underdog. I became enamored and in love with wanting to work and help other underdogs, if you will. That's the terminology everyone uses when people,
Right. Well,
instead of
yeah. Right.
retarded or, oh, I don't even like those words,
I
mental
don't like
illness,
those
and
that
oh God.
terminology. Right.
So for me,
That's
it's like underdog, because to me, the vision I have of an underdog is someone who's really striving to,
right.
almost put the cape on, right?
Right.
And it just, you know,
It changes you,
it
doesn't it? I
does.
mean, it
It
really does.
does.
One of the reasons I actually got, I mean, I always wanted to be a writer for as long as I could remember. That's what I wanted to do. I was going to go study English literature and write. And then one day, one summer, right before college, when I was still in high school, I was working in a camp, and they had a program in the camp for children with special needs, and I was asked if I wanted to be a counselor. I knew nothing about these kids, but I like to, yeah, I like new things. So I said, sure, okay. There was one little girl that I remember because nobody, people, even the counselors in the camp kind of did not like her. And this program was, even though it was in a regular camp, it was still kind of separate from the mainstream. So this little girl would bite her arms, and she had all these bites all over her arms. She would bite the inside of her mouth, and I didn't know a lot about it. It was all kind of intuitive. I would rub and sing to her. She also used to urinate in her pants, and I remember putting a bathing suit on and putting her bathing suit on and taking her in the shower and singing with her and whatever. Well, she started to blossom, and it was a wonderful experience. And part of it was just that somebody was not, oh, get away from me. It was like she had love, she had playfulness, and I was just being kind and loving and just connecting with her soul, sort of. But there she was, and so I thought, wow. It changed my whole career around. I also, like you, I mean, I was working in a program. I was hired as the executive director of a program, and that's how I ended up in New Jersey. I was hired as an executive director for a program for children and youth with special needs. It's residential, educational, treatment, clinical, autism, and we actually had a vocational program too. We got certain funding. We opened camp program. We finally opened community-based residential programs because so yeah. So I'll never let that part go because that's been very special, and I always think about ways to really help families and help children with special needs. And we just had, as you know, we just had somebody very special, Temple Grandin, on my TV show that aired Tuesday, Power Your Life TV, and she's brilliant. Now, what if there was a movie that was made about her called Temple Grandin, and it won all these awards. But basically, initially people didn't get it, and then there were some people that finally understood her gifts, and she has made such contributions not only to autism but to the field that she's in terms of animal husbandry and helping them see how whatever they're doing with animals could be more humane. And she was able to do it because of the way her mind operates, which is different than somebody else's, but different in such a wonderful way. So what if no one recognized that? What if they thought, well, this person just is weird. She can't, she doesn't fit in, and she didn't necessarily. But look at the brilliance, and look at the contributions, and look at the gifts that she's made to animals. She's a one incredible spokesperson, and she's been on so many shows, and a leader. And so I think that these are the people that you don't cast somebody aside. You just don't say, okay, according to my standards or according to these standards, this person just doesn't fit in. Well, I'm not sure I was ever fitting in the way that somebody needed to. But I think that there's so many people that have brilliance, that have gifts, that have such unique ways. And who are we to judge? Rather, we should be in a way of being able to accept, to create programs, to create whatever it is to allow people to flourish.
I agree.
I
One
think
of
I
the
got my
things,
bandstand here.
no, it's okay. One of the things I do want to touch upon, because I mean I resonate with you on so many levels, and love you for so many reasons. And one of them, besides what you just talked about, is because you have this beautiful, passionate heart, and because you do have some beautiful causes that you, I guess, champion for. So I'd love for you to share with the audience just a little bit, because you and I could talk forever, and we don't have forever. Anyways, I'd love for you to share a little bit about some of the things you write about, and this, some of the stuff you blog about, and some of the things you like to post about. Like, I know you've done several shows on transgender people, and I know that's something that's really close to your heart. So I'd just love for you just to touch on a little bit. We've talked about, disabled children and autistic and autism. I'd love for you to share a few of your other passions that you champion for. I know you're very much about female empowerment, which is amazing. But I'd love for everyone to get kind of, you're such a beautiful person. I just want people to get a sense of like who you are and what some of your passions are, and why some of these causes or things mean something to you.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. I think it's, again, I think it's about helping people just like you are. And I believe that one of the main reasons we're here to grow, we're here to expand ourselves, we're here to connect on so many levels, we're here to be joyful. We're also here, and I believe in this so strongly, to be of service. And and you and I talked earlier about what that means, and everybody can do that in a very different way, and that's fine. So I have so many passions. I think that I'm very grateful for how I was brought up, because I was brought up to believe that differences are important, that we don't judge somebody, that we don't say, okay, that person, we don't like that person because of the color of their skin, we don't like that person because of their sexual orientation. We're not going. So I feel very blessed that the values that my family embrace are, I'm very strong, feel very strongly about. And so some of the things that I write about are about that, because I think that it's really important to recognize that we are this community of oneness, and you and I talked about that, yes, when you were on my show too, and that we're all one. And so if I'm discriminating or saying you're less than I am because you wear your hair funny or your nails are too, I'm just exaggerating, but whatever, then I'm cutting off a part of myself. And I'm also not recognizing how together there's this incredible symphony and orchestra that can't be done in the, if there's an instrument that's missing, there's a discordant sound. And so if we're doing that with people, there's this discordant way of living. And we see that now with so much that's going on globally. So that's what I write about. I'm also so passionate about some of the things that we're launching too, the Power Your Life Network, and I think that's also about collaboration, and also about bringing all these talented people with various gifts together, so that, again, well, I could say, okay, I have all this, and this is, but it's not about me. It's about bringing these people together who are dedicated to help to change the world, so to speak, but to really want to enrich people's lives. And they have gifts and talents like you that I don't have. And so I want to be able to bring them into this community and really be able to shine a light on them so that we can help a lot of people.
Another reason why I bring up that is I find a lot of people won't post or write or speak about whether it be transgender, sexuality, autism, or these things, because they're afraid if they talk about these things, all of a sudden people are like, oh, well, are you bi? Are you transgender? Do you have an autistic child? Right? People have this, I don't know, this concept that if someone shares about these things, if they talk about these things, automatically it means that somehow or shape or form they have that intimately in your life. Rather, that they just have a passionate heart and care about other human beings of all diversities, and that understand the concept of we are all interconnected. I see it time and time and time again, because a lot of the times you'll see a parent who maybe does have an autistic child or does have a child who is homosexual, whatever the issue is, and they either, two things either happen. They either become closed-minded and closeted about the situation, or all they do is talk about that. So
Right.
people are like, so that's what they expect. If anyone else talks about that, really focuses on these specific issues, that means that it has to be intimately part of life, versus that maybe they just are passionate about empowering people. And it doesn't matter what you are, what you do, or whatever. So that's why I brought that up, because I think it's a really important
But
piece.
look what happens if we're in such limitation that we can't get out of our box, whatever it is, and say, I see an injustice over there. So I may not understand it totally. I may not be transgender. I may not know what that's like or whatever, but I can understand that there's a human being there that needs respect and that doesn't need to be discriminated against. And I think when you do that, you widen your sphere. And if we recognize that sense of oneness, well, who am I to not help my fellow neighbor, my friend, what? And I think that's service doesn't necessarily have to be, okay, I'm out here to change the world. Service can be, I'm helping somebody across the street. Or I remember one day, and I don't know how much time we have, but this is just a story, okay? One day, for some reason, it was late at night, and I thought, I feel like going out and getting something. There was a store that closed down, like a supermarket. I feel like, and I didn't need anything, but I felt compelled, just like that other time, compelled not to go out. Okay, so I go out. I'm in the store, and I really don't know why I'm there. And I buy something and I leave. Well, I'm driving on this very busy street to get back to my house, and there's a dog that is lying in the middle of the street. And if I were to continue, I would have hit the dog. Well, I stopped right in the middle of a very busy street. I'm honking my horn so somebody back behind me thinks I'm this crazy person and they're not going to bump into me. I put the blinkers on. I get out, and I'm working with this dog. And it's interesting because somebody else came and said, oh, I was afraid to park in the middle of the street. And somebody else came and I said, we need a blanket. Somebody else came with a blanket. So I started to do Reiki, energy work on the dog. And I'm thinking, wow, I mean, the reason that I was to go out was because if I would, how many cars, and I shudder to think about that, how many cars would have just continued to go over that dog? So there may have been 10, 20, just the thought of it makes me tear up. And so, finally a policeman came. He said to me, did you hit the dog? I said, no, we're just trying to help the dog. And another person came and called up her vet, and we were able to get the dog to the vet. The point is that it's important to be able to be of service, whatever that means, when you're called to do it for whatever reason. I mean, obviously, that's why I was called to go out of the house. I didn't know why, but I did once that took place, and there were other people there to help, and that's important. Sorry, but I
No,
get
it's
so
okay. I think it's wonderful because, again, there could have been a lot of people just gone around the dog, drove around the car, or whatever. Yeah, so I mean, I think
you
it's
couldn't
just.
have. Those
Oh,
cars
okay.
going really fast. There was another lane and then two other lanes coming the other way. That dog would not have
Oh,
made.
yeah. We need to be more aware and be willing to do things when we see things. So, I want to end with a couple of things. One of them is I'd love for you to share, because I was one of the questions I love asking, is because everyone has a different definition for this. Is what does the word vision mean to you?
to me, vision is incredibly expansive. Vision is about what you're seeing. It gets back to that magnification of all the senses. Because to me, envisioning is about bringing in all the senses. It's about having a sense of direction that can catapult you into the future as well as being in the present. It's about recognizing your gifts, your talents, and being able to kind of weave them in such a way that you're able to realize your own magnificence again within the magnificence of so many other people, and be able to recognize how I want to put this forward so that it isn't just a vision, but it's a vision that has some realistic elements to it, so I can ground it in reality and make it come into fruition.
Oh,
That's a
I
very
love
short
that. No,
version
that's
of
actually beautiful.
thank
I
you.
really encourage everyone to go explore Dr. Joanne's site. It's actually her name, drjoannewhite.com, and that's DrJoannewhite. And I spelled out because there are some people that are viewing this via eyes and a visual video, and there's some people that are tuning in and listening. And I would love for you to share with us some last words of wisdom, meaning what would be maybe 3 wonderful nuggets you'd love to give out to people, whether it be parts of your ingredients for success or ingredients for creating a vision. I just love for you to, whatever you feel inspired to share to end with.
I think it's important that we're all going to hit days, times in our lives when there are obstacles. And I think one thing that I've learned and that I live by is to never give up. So perseverance, endurance. I mean, I live that every day. I've had injuries. I've had things that have stopped me and could have totally kept me from moving forward, and something like that just happened recently. But if you don't give up and you find ways to push past that time of stalling, that pain, that injury, that whatever it is, there's something beautiful that comes of it. So I think that's very important to recognize that we have the ability to move past those times and to come out on the other side. I remember a time when I had a major injury and I couldn't walk, and I couldn't actually, the only thing I could do was stand, and after a very difficult day lie down in bed, and I wasn't able to drive a car, I wasn't able to sit or whatever. And that's when I really got into alternative medicine and started to look at, okay, what do I need to do to heal myself so I can dance, so I can walk, so I can, do all the things that I'm thinking about. And part of that was to recognize that we need to see beyond that limited moment. If I was stuck in that limitation, I wouldn't be where I was today. The other thing, which is why we talk about power your life, is to recognize, and I said this, Carly, in the very beginning, the richness that we have within us, the possibilities, the abilities, the untapped resources that we have, and some of them are to be able to give to other people so that we can share them and so that we can bless other people with our goodness, with our gifts, with our talents. So I think that's important too. Reach inside and figure out what that is. Figure out what makes you very, very special and very unique, because I can't sing. I love to sing, but you don't want to hear me sing. And yet there are I just heard this woman yesterday who sent me over something because she's going to be on my show, and the tears were streaming down my face. This voice was like the voice of an angel. Now she's supposed to be sharing that gift, because what it does is it just opened my heart in a way that was just wonderful, and that's her gift. So share your gifts. Don't be afraid to recognize what they are and to put them out, because the world needs them, we need them, and you're all very special.
So, as everybody knows, I put together an amazing blog post that has all of Dr. Joanne's information, where you can find her. I really encourage you to go explore her on several places. One of them is, I'd love for you to go explore her on YouTube, and you can actually type in Dr. Joanne White and it'll come up, or type up Power Your Life. She does have a TV show Tuesdays at 1:30 Eastern Standard Time, and that's her Power Your Life TV show. And mind you, all this stuff is on our website. So if you click on our website and you want to look for videos or the radio shows, it'll take you to archives, it'll take you to upcoming shows. And she also has a beautiful radio show on Blog Talk Radio, which is on Wednesdays at noon Eastern Standard Time.
And you were on it just yesterday.
Yes, I was. It was wonderful.
Yes, and you were
can go
great.
to Blog Talk Radio, and again, you can just type in Dr. Joanne White or Joanne White, and it'll pop up. But again, just go to the website, drjoannewhite.com. You know, you can always find me, your host, CarlyAlyssa.Thorne.com. That's where you can find me, and that's CarlyAlyssatHorne.com. And we wish you an absolutely wonderful day. I love bringing you guys valuable content. I look forward to spending more time with you next week. And Dr. Joanne and I wish you a wonderful day, evening, or whatever time zone you're in. So this is it for today, you guys. I really just love you all, and many blessings. And thank you so much for being with me. It was an absolute joy, and I can't wait to talk again and again.
Oh, mine too.
And
we
again.
have to do more. Yes, on and on. I love you.
I love you too. All right, bye.